Tune into the episode of Rock Boys Football. Hugh Freeze, the Auburn Tigers continue the momentum on the recruiting trail, landing one of the more fascinating prospects in this 2025 class, three-star linebacker Bryce Deas from the state of Maryland. Now, let's start with player he plays his high school football at St. Francis Academy. I think that's massive for Auburn for two different reasons. One, St. Francis Academy, one of the premier high school programs across the country, consistently putting out top players at the collegiate level. But I think more importantly for this Auburn team, he's teammates and close friends with one of their top targets on the defensive side of the football, four-star cornerback Blake Woodby, a top 100 national prospect. We talked about Blake Woodby earlier last week. He's certainly trending to this Auburn program with the commitment of his teammate Bryce Deas. That certainly helps Auburn's chances with Blake Woodby as well. And you get into Bryce Deas, and I'll be the first one to admit, put my hand up and say he was not on my radar for this Auburn program 72 hours ago. He works out with Auburn on Sunday at a camp. He tests phenomenally well, gets offered Monday, commits Tuesday. You take a look at some of these testing numbers, some of the better testing numbers you'll see at the high school level. Runs a 4.53 in the 40 at 210 plus pounds. Extremely impressive number. Has a 76-inch wingspan, a 37-inch vert. You're talking about a premier athlete coming out of high school. And although I don't think it's totally manifested itself on the football field just yet, we talk about this all the time at the high school level. It's about projection. What is this kid going to look like 2 to 3 years down the road? With those testing numbers, you might be looking at a diamond in the rough for this Auburn program. Want to get into the film, talk about where he slots in for this Auburn program. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Auburn Tiger fans. Many of y'all know I've had a blast talking this program over the last couple of weeks, breaking down commitments, the amount of support, the amount of War Eagles you guys continue to throw in the comments section. That stuff means the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. A lot more commitments to break down during the month of June and into July. And without further ado, let's get into Bryce Deas. And let's start off with the conversation regarding where do you slot Bryce Deas in this Auburn defense. I think there are two potential fits. One at that off-ball linebacker spot with that 4.53 40, 37-inch vert. You're talking about a juiced-up athlete that can certainly operate in space, go sideline to sideline, kind of do what you're looking for with these modern era college football linebackers, where you're seeing a lot of offenses test linebackers athletically in space, whether that's making them carry tight ends up the seam, tackling running backs in the flat. You got to have linebackers that can operate in space. You look at Bryce Deas, 37-inch vert, 4.53 in the 40. This is certainly an athlete that can operate in space. But what I think is most intriguing, and what you see on the film when we get into it, I think this guy could be a jack linebacker for Auburn too. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Jalen McLeod in terms of not necessarily being the biggest edge rusher, but the juice this kid has off the line of scrimmage. You combine that with 76-inch arms, or 76-inch wingspan, I should say. Those are some traits that elite pass rushers kind of have. So I think this is a guy that could slot in at a couple different spots for Auburn. And although probably not a day one contributor like we saw from Falk last year, Amaris Williams, which what I think we're going to see from Amaris Williams in 2024, Cam Coleman, I think this guy's a year 2, year 3, year 4 kind of guy. You get him within this program, you put some more weight on him. You're talking about a premier athlete that if you can get coached up can be a very good football player at the SEC level. I love that Auburn was able to lock this kid up early in this 2025 cycle, because I think there's certainly a possibility that during his senior year, he kind of breaks out, becomes a riser in the recruiting industry. And I think Auburn locking him in early, I think certainly means a lot. Getting into the film, again, really, really intriguing cat that plays at St. Francis Academy. I love him coming off the edge. I think that's where he plays his best football. I mean, he's got kind of that next gear coming off the line of scrimmage, attacking tackles, kind of from that athleticism standpoint, really does remind you of Jalen McLeod. You see him be a premier athlete too as a pass catcher. You're talking about a guy that's a two-way player for a reason. You want to get the football into this kid's hands at the high school level, and although probably does not play offense for this Auburn program, you get a little bit of sense of the juice that this kid has. Now, the cameraman just not throwing us any bones in terms of the camera work here. But you can kind of still get a sense of you run back that play. I mean, this is what you're looking for from an edge rusher. I mean, challenging this left tackle athletically, just kind of attacking that outside shoulder, getting after the quarterback. That's where I love his game the most. He can just be a real disruptor coming off the edge. You continue to work through the film. You continue to battle some absolutely wild camera work. You get a more sense of the athlete, him playing on the offensive side of the football. Really, really good movie. And the athletic traits you can see on the offensive side of the football, kind of like we talked about with Amaris Williams coming out in that 2024 cycle, where you saw him be his best athlete as a ball carrier at the running back spot. Again, nice little work from the edge spot. I like him the most here. Again, kind of reminds you of Jalen McLeod in terms of the juice he has coming off the line of scrimmage, working through contact, making the play. I think he plays the jack linebacker spot. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments section, but you take a look at what Auburn's doing in this 2025 class. I consistently say it. I think they're just building up on the defensive side of the football, right? 2024 was really dedicated to grabbing some offensive talent. Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Bryce Kane, Walker White. You take a look at what Auburn's doing on the defensive side of the football. 5-star defensive lineman, Malik Autry, Jakaleb Falk, a guy that can be a serious disruptor coming off the edge. Jordan Crawford. You look at Auburn, yes, they're getting it done with the offensive talent under Hugh Freeze. They're also getting it done on the defensive side of the football too. And you look at Bryce Deas and say, all right, maybe he's not a year one player for Auburn, but a nice guy to stash away and see what he turns into year 2, year 3. You bet on those traits, the 4.5 40, the 37-inch vert. Those would be numbers that are some of the better testing linebacker numbers that you saw at the NFL Combine. Bet on this kid, get him within the program, put some weight on him. I think he could be a difference maker for this Auburn program over the next couple of years. We'll close it on that. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.